everyone, welcome to my second module on J.H. Miller's The Critic and Host. Hope you all might have enjoyed the first module, that is Introduction to J.H. Miller, and thank you for your positive comments and constructive criticism. And if there is anyone who have missed out the first module, you can find the link to the first module in the description box below. Okay, in this module we will be having a very detailed look into J.H. Miller's text, The Critic and Host, which is prescribed for the first MA students of Manoன்மணியம் Sundarnath University. So now let's move into the text. Hope you remember our discussion in the previous module about M.H. Abraham's stand against deconstructive criticism and his belief that univocal reading is possible in a text. And here J.H. Miller begins his essay by referring to M.H. Abrams. M.H. Abrams, in his essay Rationality and Imagination in Human History, quotes Wayne Booth, and which reads like this, I quote, "Deconstructionist reading of a given work is plainly and simply parasitical on the obvious or univocal reading." The first part, that is plainly, simply parasitical, is quoted from Wayne Booth, and the remaining part on the obvious or univocal reading is that of M.H. Abrams. And he continues, if deconstructionist principles are taken seriously, any history which relies on written text becomes an impossibility. So what is that? If deconstructionist principles are taken seriously, any history which relies on the written text would become an impossibility. So actually what has happened here, M.H. Abrams has quoted from Wayne Booth and Miller has quoted M.H. Abrams, that is citation of a citation. And Miller is putting in a very interesting, he is giving a twist to that. Why can't we consider this citation within the text as a parasite? Interesting, right? So, citation in a literary text is a parasite. So, who is the host here? Literary text is the host. What happens when a parasite invades its host? You know, the parasite will be sucking the life out of the host in a slow and steady manner. So, likewise, will the parasite here the parasite is a citation. Will the parasite here strangle its host, will take the life out of its host, that is the literary text itself, or in a broader sense, the literature itself. So this is the curious question asked by Miller, the question posed by Miller. And to the second accusation, that if deconstructionist reading is taken seriously, a reading of history would be an impossibility. For this, Miller gives another interesting answer. Nobody in this postmodern world believes that history is permanent, because now we know that history is written by the people who are in power and we have a subaltern reading of history. So if you want to believe that history is permanent, then you are free to do that and make a fool of yourself. At the same time, he gives you a caution of notice that you should not take the reading of history so lightly, because history is written on the bodies of the people who really lived in this world, who traveled through this world in which we live in. Now, when you hear the word parasite, what are the images evoked in your mind? You Google for the word parasite. What will be coming is the image of an oak tree, image of an ivy tree, and lot of vines clinging into that tree. And usually we believe that the parasite is someone which feeds on the host without giving anything in return. And in our literature, there are plenty of examples where lady loves are being referred as parasite. And he gives two allusions from literature, that is Thackeray's Vanity Fair and Hardy's Ivy Wife. So when you hear the word parasite, especially in literature, the image that it evokes is that of feminine. So a lady love will be usually referred to as a parasite, which means that she will be depending upon her husband, that is the oak or the ivy tree, which stands very strong. So Hadi's ivy wife, it goes on like this, that the lover is he's depending upon the man without his knowledge, sucking his life slowly out, and finally the man falls, and along with her, she too falls. So the parasite usually in literature evokes the feminine image dependent on somebody. Next, he moves on to an etymological investigation of the word parasite. In English, the prefix or the suffix para or pa stands for alongside, near, beside, beyond, incorrectly, resembling, similar to, subsidiary, isomeric, polymeric, etc. Whereas in Greek, the term para stands for beside, to the side of, alongside, beyond, wrongfully, harmfully, unfavorably, among, etc. Whereas in the Indo-European system of languages, per, the root, it stands for forward, through, in front of, before, early, first, chief, toward, against, near, at, around, etc. So we can see that the term parasite evokes labyrinthine meanings, which are at once uncanny and antithetical. The words created stands for opposite meanings. For example, some words refer to proximity and some to distance, interior and exterior. Some refers to inside the boundary and some outside the boundary, and at times the boundary itself, and also equivalent, subsidiary, etc. So some of the words, the examples given in the text, you can also go back to your text and have a thorough reading of the text. The examples given here are parachute, paradigm, parasol, paragon, paradox, paramorph, paramedical, parallel, parabasis, paraphrase, paragraph, paranoia, paraphernalia, etc. And some words must be very familiar to you, whereas some are not. So he doesn't stop the etymological investigation here. The word parasite is derived from the term parasitosis, which stands for beside the grain, where the para means besides and cytology is the science of foods. So let me repeat, the word our parasite is derived from parasitosis, where para stands for besides and cytology is the science of foods. So we can call a professional dinner guest who is an expert at coming to our houses, bumming into our houses without the invitation as a parasite. So Miller says that you can call a professional dinner guest someone expert at courting investigations without ever giving dinners in return as a parasite. From here he moves on to the definition of parasite. He gives two definitions, biological definition and sociological definition. And the biological definition is that parasite is any organism that grows, feeds and is sheltered on or in a different organism while contributing nothing to the survival of the host. Note the point, nothing to the survival of the host. And the sociological definition goes like this. A person who habitually takes advantage of the generosity of others without making any useful return. Without making any useful return. So here we have got two definitions of parasite, biological and sociological. And he says that to call a criticism parasitical is in either case very strong language. So to rewind a bit, why Miller wrote this essay? Why Miller presented this essay in MLA, conference organized by MLA? He want to give a reply to M.H. Abrams for calling deconstructionist mode of criticism a parasite. And he says that if somebody calls you a parasite, it is a strong case, it is a serious offense. That means if somebody calls you a parasite, you cannot go and hug the person and say, I love you, oh, thank you that you called me a parasite. So that is what happened here. Miller has taken this as a very serious offense and he is retorting M.H. Abrams. So, for quite some time we have been discussing about the implications of the term parasite, etc. Why bringing in all these discussions here in the study of literature? And he's asking, Miller himself is asking a very interesting question. What does all this have to do with the reading of poems? And he says that, see, come on, I have given you a very practical example of deconstructionist mode of reading. This is how you read a poem through this lens of deconstruction. Here we can apply any sort of criticism. For example, here he has gone for the etymological investigation, he has gone into the roots of the word parasite, and he has brought in some sociological allusions about the host and the guest who come to our house without any invitation and who never returns any gift, etc. So he has brought in the Indo-European family of languages. He has brought in the social structure of gift giving and gift receiving, about which you will be seeing in the latter part of the essay in detail. And also he has told that the citation within the text is a parasite, and Mr. Abrams, you have done that. So this is the typical example for a deconstructionist mode of criticism, where you are not bound by any rules, where you are not bound by the rule of univocal reading and univocal reading and the Wali truth concept, etc. So usually I used to tell my students that I love these post theories because teacher can tell you that Wali this answer is going to be correct. No teacher has the authority to put user rating in your paper, because every reading you make, every reading of a poem you make is correct. And this is the thrill behind the deconstructive reading, postmodernist reading, reader response theory, etc. So this is also a reason for us to love the theories. Now let's move on to let's come back to the text. We all will agree that literature is figurative, it is metaphorical. So here Miller is digging out the figurative implications of the word parasite. Okay. Before going into a detailed look into that, let me tell you something about the etymological relationship between the words host and the guest. Miller points out that the terms host and guest share the same roots. So, which means that a host is also a guest is also a host, and a parasite, which is a guest, is also a host. So he continues that the parasite and the host, that is the guest and the host, shares the same food beside the table. So this is like A is equal to B, B is equal to C, and A is equal to C logic. So here, as the host and the parasite share the same food, he is extending this logic to deconstructive and univocal reading. So deconstructive and univocal reading, though looks like polar opposite, though looks like different entities of reading, they share the same food. They are one. And it is like a chain. How a chain would be? Here's a chain, and you all will be having chains on your necks. And in the chain, it will be interconnected, right? There will be a friction which takes them apart and which also keeps them together. Likewise, this univocal and deconstructive reading or the parasite and the host, they may look like enemies, but they share an intimate bond, a bond that cannot be separated. So he says that as a parasite is encrypted inside the host, in every deconstructive reading there is a possibility of univocal reading, and in every univocal reading there is a possibility of deconstructive reading. He also brings in another illusion like that of gift giving. So as the host and the guest, you'll be there sharing the same food, sharing the same gift. And he says that he refers to Marcel, that means a German writer, and he says that the gift stands for poison. So giving and taking in of gifts, that's not something very good, because it may be that you will be bound to give back the gifts. Maybe for that reason he is telling like that. Anyway, so this chain, it's like a circle. You do not know where it begins and where it is going to end. Likewise, the gift giving is also a circular process. Somebody will be giving you the gift and you have to give the gift in return. And do you think that this process of gift giving is going to end, especially in the Indian society? So right from a child's birth, we have this habit of giving gift to the child, and later when you have a child of your own, those persons will be returning that gift. So this we Indians, whatever happens in our life, there will be a gift giving and gift taking process. So this is not going to end even if somebody tells you that no, this is not good, this is poison, etc. No. So this is a perpetual process. The process of gift giving and gift receiving is a perpetual process, and so is the poems. The illusion here made by Miller is that he is comparing the poems to this process of gift giving as a chain, as a continuous process that goes on and on and on. It is the poem that is being divided by the critics. They divides it as you divide a bread and divide a chocolate and share it among your friends. The poem will be broken, it's divided, and it will be passed among the people. And there is also an element of parasite in the poems. Every poem has a parasite encrypted in it, and also every poem is a parasite on its previous poems. So I think those who have read T.S. Eliot, you know that T.S. Eliot also has made such references that you are that, and the reader response theory. All the modern theory says that we are dependent upon our previous masters. Likewise, every poem is a parasite on the poems that has come before, and it has a parasite encrypted on it, and the poems which comes after it will be feeding on this particular poem. And he gives an example from Shelley's Triumph of Life. In Shelley's Triumph of Life, we can see that he is being influenced by all the masters. From Shakespeare, Milton, Bible, we can find that all these books have influenced Shelley's Triumph of Life, and Shelley's Triumph of Life has in turn influenced the people who have come after, like Hardy, Wallace Stevens, etc. And so Shelley's Triumph of Life was a parasite on the previous poems, and many other poets who has come after Shelley has depended much on this poem of Shelley. And do you think that Shelley's Triumph of Life can have only one univocal reading? No, we can have a metaphysical occidental reading on the Triumph of Life as well as a nihilistic reading. So we can have an univocal reading as well as a deconstructionist reading. You cannot say that Shelley's Triumph of Life should be read like this. It is in this point Miller concluding his essay. So he has taken Shelley's Triumph of Life as a case study. So we cannot restrict, we cannot enforce any type of reading into a literary text. Any type of reading is possible in a literary text. Even opposite the schools of theory which looks like opposite polar opposites can also be applied in the same singular, in the same text. And see, I have to move on to the post theories. today I have got this Miller's The Critic and Host with me. I read the text and I felt that okay, this is what Miller tries to convey, and I have told that, I have conveyed that to you people. So after 4 or 5 years, when another set of students come to me, when I take the text, some other ideas may occur to me. Oh, this must be the point which Miller wants to put out. So you cannot say that the reading is permanent. We can have any number of readings in a literary. When another set of students come to me, I may come up with another interpretation which has nothing to do with what I have done today. Right? So we have come to the end of this essay or end of this module, and I think the Critic as a host gives very positive vibes regarding the study of literature or the study of poems, where it opens a world of several meanings and several deconstructive readings, and I think the univocal readings are not the order of the day in this, especially in this world, in this postmodern world. Deconstructive readings which generates several new meanings should be encouraged, and I think that should be one of the reasons for us to love literature. And I request you all to read the text. There may be some points which I might have missed out, and so only your reading of the text will make our session complete. And I hope this session will be most useful to you, is useful to you, and will be useful to you in your preparation for your exams. And please feel free to comment. I believe that learning is always a continuous process, and there will be room for improvement always. So my best wishes for your exams, and also see you in some other episodes with some other writer. Keep in touch, subscribe to my channel, and